Welcome to Alternative Living Chats, the podcast where we explore the lives of people who have chosen to do things a little differently. From narrowboats to nomadic vans, off-grid cabins to eco-communities, we dive into what motivates people to live alternatively, what their days really look like, and the highs and lows of choosing the road less travelled. I'm Maxine, and I live aboard our narrowboat Never Too Late, so I know a thing or two about life outside the box. And so I would like now to introduce our guest today, and we hope you enjoyed the conversation. And don't forget, if you fancy joining me, drop me a message. So I'd like to introduce Paula, and she's going to tell us all about herself. So, Paula, if you'd like to give us some insight into who you are and what you get up to.
Hello, Maxine. I'm a liveaboard boater. Me, my hubby, and our little dog Daisy live on Narrowboat, Fulcrum, and I'm a former teacher.
Oh, brilliant. So how long have you been living aboard?
We've been living aboard just over 3 years now.
Oh, it's about the same as us. That's, we've been over just over 3 years too. So are you based in a particular area?
Predominantly in the West Midlands. We have been slightly further south and slightly further north, but predominantly for the last 3 years, it's been around the West Midlands region, really.
Yeah. And had you been boating before you moved on, or was it a new experience?
We did. In order to pursue this lifestyle, we thought it would be a good idea to, pardon the pun, test the water. So we actually hired a narrowboat for 2 weeks back in 2021, and we did the Four Counties Ring.
Ah, good.
And we thought that that would be sufficiently testing enough. And we just completely fell in love with it.
And we figured also, if we took the aerial off the roof and could talk to each other, it would be fine. Which is what we did, accidentally.
Ah. And so have you retired, or do you actually work on board?
Via a willow tree.
No, we both chose to take early retirement. I from teaching, and Steve, my husband, from the post office.
Yeah. And so what inspired you to go to do this type of lifestyle? Has there been something that actually, inspired you initially, or?
I think, Maxine, there were a number of things that inspired us. One of the most profound things was that I actually lost my eldest son just over 10 years ago to brain cancer. And prior to that, he'd been diagnosed at the age of 18. So there had been many years leading up to that loss and the gradual decline in everything. And it was such a devastating loss. And it kind of, well, it just left me with an empty tank and made me reevaluate everything. When you have a profound loss like that, your world is shattered. The landscape as you know it just disappears, and you have to remake your world, and you have to go on because you've got other children and other people who care about you, who you care about. And it kind of came from there, really. A way to go forward, and a motivation and a reason to keep going. And I think we sort of carried on for the next 7 years after we lost our son. And it got to the stage where the tank was just empty. We were literally running on fumes.
Yeah.
And we thought, we just can't go on like this anymore.
Pushing wood.
Yeah. And I'd fallen out of love with my job, really. And I didn't believe it was the right thing to do to stay in that job any longer, especially as a teacher. Children deserve better than that. And I'd given it my all for a long time, and, decided enough was enough, really. And we just decided that to completely reprioritize wants and our needs.
And what we were doing.
Yeah, and what we were doing,
Going to work and,
yeah,
paying the mortgage and looking at the walls.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to work, you're paying the bills, you're paying the mortgage, and you're looking at the walls when you're not at work. You're too tired to go, and we knew something, and we searched, we thought, and that's why we came up with it. I'd always been a bit obsessed with boats anyway, and we decided to hire and test it out, and we
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. And we thought, you know what, we can do this. And initially, it was going to be that we would sell a house, buy the boat, and I would continue to work for another couple of years, because obviously, when you take early retirement, you have a diminished pension. But when it came to it, in that last look at it and selling the house, I said to Steve, I just can't carry on anymore. I just cannot. I don't care if we live on a shoestring. Let's just cut line, fish bait, and go. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
That's amazing. And thank you for sharing the loss of your child. I completely, well, not completely, because everybody's loss is completely different. I lost my daughter 15 years ago. So losing a child, it is horrendously difficult to get through. And you live, I think, well, I live for her now, so that you don't want to waste your life.
It is.
And that's that. Yeah, it is. So moving aboard and everything, what's been the best thing? What do you love most about living on the boat?
I think one of the great things, it's the freedom.
Mm.
We love the freedom, and the fact that you're responsible for everything that happens every day. You're not answerable to anybody. With the lifestyle that we live, you can just go where you want, where you want. The fact that you are so close to nature all the time,
Yeah.
and you're so embedded in the changing seasons, and we've come to appreciate all of the seasons. I used to hate winters when I lived in a house, and now winter time on the canals can be one of the best times. It's quieter. You're just immersed all the time, and it's
Because you can see the edge ridges.
yeah, you can see the edge of the bridges in winter because
Yeah.
they're not all covered in overgrowth.
Yeah, definitely. So what's something that you wish you'd known when you moved aboard that would be useful for anybody else thinking to, live aboard, or, what's one thing that jumps out at you that you wish you'd known, if anything?
I'm just, it's a difficult one in a way, because I think although we did a lot of research and we did what a lot of people do and watched all the YouTube vlogs, and I read a lot. I read books that people had written as well. I did my own research. But I think taking ownership of a narrowboat and living on it is a bit like becoming a first time parent,
Yeah.
because you can imagine what it's going to be like, but you just don't know till you're there. And it's a bit like having your first child, and you've got to learn all these things, and you've got
Yeah.
to learn the nuances of that. You know, you've got to learn about the electrics, you've got to learn about the engine, the maintenance, and it is a never ending.
And how they all function together.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's a never ending thing. There is always something that needs doing on a boat. And I think it's fair to say, even on quite new boats, boaters will tell you that there is always something that needs doing, and that is just the way of life, really.
Yeah.
I'm prepare you for that, really. Even hiring a boat, because it's not your boat, you don't own it, you hand it back at the end of the hire time and you walk away. But when this boat not only becomes your boat, but it becomes your home, you're very much responsible for it. And I think if you're not a hands-on person, you certainly will be by the time you've had your boat a little while. Or if you're not, then you need to be.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And so what does a typical day look like nowadays for you?
Well, that's interesting, because I'm not sure that there is a typical day in a sense.
It's things we do typically.
Yeah, there are things that we do typically, like anybody does wherever you live and whatever you live in. There are certain things that have to be done. We have we have an automatic washing machine. We have hot running water and all of that. And there are chores that have to be done like you would do in a house. But our days are very much dictated by the weather.
Yeah.
And they're dictated by whether there are any stoppages on the canals. So, especially at the moment, I'm sure you're aware, the water's quite shallow everywhere at the moment because we've had the driest spring in many, many, many years. So, now you just have objectives. So a typical day, you can wake up thinking, "Oh, I'll do so and so today." I might think, "You know what? Today I'm going to paint the window frames, or I'm going to do a bit of canal art because I do art as well." It doesn't happen because something else crops up, and you realize, "Oh God, there's going to be a stoppage at such and such a place, so you've got to move, or
Get to a water point.
or get to a
rubbish point.
water point or a rubbish point." So a typical day, but you're always going to do things like keep an eye on your water,
Yeah.
check your engine, check your batteries, and those kind of things that you rely on for your day-to-day existence, really.
Yeah. And so we just mentioned batteries. Do you have a solar setup, or are you just purely on the batteries and running engines? How do you manage with your electricity?
No, we've got solar.
Yeah, we've got 4 reasonable size solar panels on the roof that soak up the sun, which is brilliant because on a day like today, the sun is shining and we have cruised today. We cruised this morning, but we won't need to put the engine on again for the rest of the day. In the winter, we do rely on the engine more. So we will run the engine it depends, doesn't it?
Depends because if it's a bright sunny day, we won't need to run it as much.
Yeah.
We've got less cruising time, and we've got, it depends. Probably 3 or 4 hours, maybe at a pinch.
Yeah.
Depends where
In
we
the
are,
winter, you might need to run it for 3 or 4 hours a day if there's not much sunlight. But yeah, so we've got a reasonable setup. We've just got
And when we first got the boat, the batteries, we didn't realise, which was, you think, oh, batteries are batteries, but we should have changed the battery bank because we did have batteries which were failing. So I bought 2 Jackeries, which basically are like lithium batteries. So
Yeah.
we've got those as backup.
Yeah.
So we can use those to.
Those are like
use
pack.
these power
They're the power packs, and we've got 2 of those. And I think they're very popular with people who live alternative lifestyles. They're a godsend, to be honest.
Yeah, and we've got a solar panel for those.
And we've got a solar panel for those as well if we need it. So
Yeah, they are. I must admit, I use mine ever still lot just for powering the laptop and just the little things instead of having to put the inverter on for everything else, sort of thing. I just use have the Jackery under the dining table and use it's useful. And what's your biggest lesson you've learned?
Yes, very.
Sorry, what's the biggest lesson you've learned since being on the boat?
Oh gosh, the biggest lesson.
Learn how to steer.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I first got it, I was out in the middle of the marina with a 70-foot boat, and I had very little instruction. And I was sitting there thinking, because I couldn't reverse it, I'd managed to hit pontoons and one thing and another, and the marina looked a little bit like Pearl Harbor. And I sat in the middle of that marina, and I was thinking, well, you bought a narrowboat, but you can't steer it and can't do anything with it. What are we going to do now? So I think that was like one moment of revelation. Eventually, we did get there, though.
We did.
And I managed to steer it.
Yeah.
I hit bridges less.
No, you did it. You picked it up really well. And I have to say that is something I still need to get to grips with because I tend to be the lock operator, and that's what I actually enjoy. But I do need to get better at the steering. And the other lessons I have learned, one of them, which is quite important, is I knew this would be an issue for me when we moved onto the boat because I had a lifelong fear of spiders.
Oh,
and I knew that it's a thing, boats and spiders, they just go together, right? And you do have to just something that I slowly learned to tolerate more and more and make accommodation for. There is certain, like in our engine room, we have an area that there's been a cobweb there for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And we leave that there, and we have resident spiders there, and that's their domain, and we're quite happy about that. An important lesson is
I think also one of the important lessons is when we first moved on the boat and how much stuff we actually had and how much we actually didn't want or didn't need.
Yeah.
And getting rid of stuff. I mean, I had 5 Chinese calligraphy sets.
Yeah.
That I must have said thank you every single time when I received them. But, I've got 5 of them and they're sitting around and you've got all this stuff. And it's like this stuff starts owning you. It's like, I know storage on a boat is, prime, and we think to ourselves, oh, we haven't got enough storage space, and you can't have massive walk-through wardrobes and one thing and another. But it really does bring home to you a thing we've learned.
Yeah.
Very early on, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, I agree with it. It's amazing what you don't need and you think you probably did need, but you don't really need any longer. So is this something do you feel that you're going to be doing? Sorry. Is this something you think you're going to be doing forever, or is it just?
Yeah, I think well, as long as we can do it, I'd like to think we could do it for a long time. I mean, it keeps you quite fit anyway, and it's quite physically demanding, and it's a very interesting thing to be doing. But yeah, I think so, don't you?
I think we'll carry on doing it for as long as we're physically and mentally capable.
Yeah.
It isn't something that we it's passionate. It isn't necessarily a cheaper way of living. I know people think that it is, and maybe for some it is. And there are expenses that you have in a bricks and mortar that you don't have in a boat, but it's by no means a cheaper way to live. But for us, it's
a better way.
It's a better way for us, and I think we'll carry on doing it literally as long as we can.
Yeah, and I think we want to avoid the elephant's graveyard of you go into a marina and there's a boat with the green algae all on the side. And, I always think of it a bit like the elephant's graveyard. That's where narrowboats go to die. So we'll try and avoid that if we can.
I don't blame you. I can understand. It's not my favourite place. The odd times we go into them, but I'd rather not go into one.
Well, you go in and there's quite a lot of shiny boats, and then there's these boats that have come here and rested.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot better days.
Definitely. So what advice, say, if any, to give to somebody that's thinking of moving on board? What would your main piece of advice be, would you say?
I would say do your homework. Search on YouTube, as good as they are and as interesting and entertaining as they are, go and have a walk on the towpaths. Strike up a conversation with a boater, because most are quite friendly and they love to talk about their boats. Go to the locks, see how things work.
Take a holiday.
Yeah, take a holiday, hire a boat. Do it in the winter if you can, because that will really test your mettle. Get as much knowledge and information. And, if you're not the handiest of people, there are some really good courses in basic boat mechanics that you can do. You can do the helmsman course if you want more confidence with how to steer or drive, as some people refer to it, a narrowboat. Be as prepared as you can be, and also make sure you've got a good pot of reserve money for emergencies. That's so important. That's why I say, when people think it's a fund in the bank,
or something goes wrong.
And something goes wrong, because that's exactly what happened to us only about 8 months after we owned our boat. If we hadn't have had that reserve pot of money, it would have been game over for us.
Yeah. No, you are completely right. It's amazing when people jump in and don't think about it properly and don't do the homework. It makes a huge, huge difference, I think, to your happiness on board.
And I also think that if you just constantly watch the vlogs which are out there and the YouTube videos, you're just getting like episodes of Star Trek. You're missing all the bits in the middle where you're polishing the photon torpedoes.
Yeah.
You don't get the kind of humdrum day-to-day things that you have to do on a boat or deal with. Because a lot of them are there to bring in an audience. So pinch of salt with some of those, I think.
Definitely, definitely. So what's been your most memorable moment since you've been living aboard?
Engine.
Yeah. One of our, which is, I mean, I alluded to it a couple of minutes ago. One of the most memorable moments it was a very cold February day. I think it had been sleeting, and we were in Nosal on the there was, no reviving of it. And we had called out the River Canal Rescue, which is a brilliant service. It's the canal equivalent, as you'll know, to the AA or the RAC. And they were prepared to supply and fit us a new engine. Bless them, it wasn't their fault, but it was tiny. We couldn't get the damn thing to start, and when we started it, it wouldn't stay running. Anyway, it was a nightmare. And the batteries we just had this new bank of batteries, and they were starting to get lower and lower. Anyway, we just thought, right, we were from North, and we sort of built up a relationship with them. They'd done a couple of jobs on our boat for us, and they were fantastic. They actually came down and picked Steve up, took him back to the wharf, lent him a hire boat.
Wow.
So we brought this hire boat all the way back down to Nosal from Norbury Wharf and spun it round, and then we towed our boat up to Norbury Wharf with the hire boat, and then they found us a mooring. And anyway, they sorted it all. We had our engine lifted out, we had it reconditioned, good as new. But that was a really, really memorable moment. It
was kind of like, really have to sit there and work things out. And especially when they came in and looked at it, and they're giving it the last rites.
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
and it's as you'll know, it's a lot of money. We could have had a new engine put in, but we decided that we would get ours reconditioned, which is the MC, and we wanted to stick with the original as much as possible.
There could be changes and prop.
But if you're changing engines, there can be other complications.
And then you've got running in if it's new, and
So we were very, very grateful for their help and everything that they did for us there.
Did us a solid.
They did, and that's one of the nice things about boating, because you do get to know those you can trust, those you can rely on, and you build up really good, solid relationships with people. When you're down on your luck, there people will come round and help you, and that's really good.
Yes, it definitely is. And so finally,
other than that, for memorable moments,
go on if you've got some more.
I was just saying, I can't really think of any other. There are lots of memorable moments, but that was the most profound thing that sticks in my mind, and I think Steve's as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was just a very key moment for us. I mean, we'd been iced in, and I mean, I especially remember because we did have a collie dog, and that went out and it went through the ice.
Oh gosh.
It's dramatic. Yes. We were iced in on the Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal, and it was pitch black. It was about 11 o'clock at night. Our collie dog was being taken out for her last walk of the night, and she would have been about 14 and a half at the time.
Yeah.
And she decided to
walk into
the canal through the ice, and fell through the ice. And Steve had to jump in, and she actually went under the boat. And it's it's not as shallow as you'd think. The Staffs and Worcester, it sort of comes up to neck level, doesn't it?
Up to your chest.
Yeah. And anyway, Steve he had no choice. It's like, okay.
All
And
I saw was these white
Yeah.
paws underneath the gunnels on the far side. So I just
And he jumped and pulled her
Parachute.
out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she got out, shook herself off, and trotted away.
Yeah, forget Lassie come home. She was off down the bank, leaving me there in the freezing cold.
So that was another memorable moment.
Oh dear, what are they like? And so, just finally, what 3 words
Yeah.
describe your lifestyle?
I think freedom, responsibility, and self-reliance.
Oh, I love those. Yeah, I can see that where I've used those words. That's really good. No, that's fabulous. And I just want to say a huge thank you for coming onto the podcast. And obviously, you're on TikTok, so I'll put your TikTok. Do you have any other sites that you're on social media or?
Yeah, we are. I mean, we do. We're on TikTok as Artie Bargy, but we're on Instagram and Facebook as Narrowboat Fulcrum.
Right. Well, what I'll do is I'll put all those in the description of the podcast when it goes out live, so people can follow you and watch your story, which will be brilliant.
Oh, that's.
Thank you.
I hope we were okay for you.
You were fab. Yes, thank you. It was lovely to chat, and thank you for being so open and honest. It's very kind.
No, thank you. And yeah, obviously, you having lost a child yourself, you know where I'm coming from with that.
Yeah, I do
So
completely. It's crap, but you have to live with it and get on, don't you?
yes, you do precisely that. Well, it's been really nice to chat with you. Thank you so much for having us.
And thank you very much, Paula. I'll send. Well, it'll be I think 4 weeks before it goes out because I do one every 2 weeks, and one went out today. So and I've got another one for a couple of weeks' time. So I'll send you a link once it's.
Okay,
Can you do me a favour and send me a
lovely.
photograph? Can you send me a photograph so I can use it for the podcast thumbnail? That you're happy to go.
Yes, I can actually because
Oh,
yeah,
Yes, we had one today, but I looked rather portly.
we had one. You don't. We
I am a Greek god.
we met
only
up.
Bacchus.
We met up at Nantwich with 2 lovely people who've also got a YouTube, a TikTok, channel. Potters 2.
Oh yeah.
Narrowboat Potters 2, and they've also got a TikTok for Rosie and Dexter, yeah. And we met up with them, and anyway, when we were leaving Nantwich this morning, they took a really nice photograph of us.
Well,
True.
Well, it was not. It was quite complimentary of me, actually.
I think you had the slow-mo on. My stomach can't
Way.
me.
We're at the back of the boat, so that'll be perfect for you to use.
Fab. That'd be great.
Do you want me? I think I can send it through
Send it.
TikTok messages, can't I? To you? Can I
I'm
do
sure
that,
I
or do
think
you
so.
want me to email it?
Whichever's easiest, but yeah, I don't mind whichever way it's easy for you. No problem at all.
Okay, I shall do that for you, Maxine.
That's great.
Again, thank you for having us. It's been interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.